Those hands weren't normal paramedic hands, because what she was doing wasn't basic first aid. These were advanced surgery techniques. In this story, I'll tell you who this woman is, where those skills come from, and why nobody has known her real background for 15 years, because this wasn't just an ordinary night shift. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before I tell this story, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. And if you believe real legends emerge at the most unexpected moments, hit that subscribe button, because this story has 3 layers, and the most shocking one comes at the end. But first, let me tell you something. The first thing you'll learn about this woman will change everything. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked the night shift at Metro General Hospital. But wait, she wasn't a doctor, she was a paramedic, or so everyone thought. For 3 years she'd worked with the same team, but none of them knew her real story. And that night everything was about to change. Elena was always different. While other paramedics took basic vital signs, she performed deeper examinations. "Why do you look so closely?" they'd ask. "Habit," she'd say quietly, but that habit came from very different places. You'll understand this in 2 minutes. Her partners Eric and Mike found Elena's method strange. Were paramedics, Elena, not surgeons. They'd say Elena would smile and not answer, because actually they were both wrong. Elena's equipment checks were different from the others. She'd inspect every tool with surgical precision, for needles, intubation equipment, cardiac monitors, like she was preparing an operating room, and the case coming that night would need exactly this preparation. At 33, Elena was always professional, always calm. She never cracked under stress, even in the most chaotic emergencies. It seemed like everything was under control. Where did this confidence come from? Because those hands had worked under very different conditions before. Elena's depth of medical knowledge amazed even supervising doctors. "Where did you go to medical school?" they'd ask. "Different places," Elena would say. Always vague, never details. And those places were very different from normal medical schools. Elena Rodriguez had joined the army at 19. But why? It wasn't family tradition. It wasn't economic necessity. It was something else. And that reason put Elena on a very special path. She'd started in the medical corps, but after basic medicine, she was selected to go further. Advanced combat medical training, the most elite program. But this was just the beginning. The real specialized training hadn't come yet. Special operations medical training, advanced surgery in combat zones, life-saving operations in field conditions. Elena was selected for the top 1%, and that training would be very useful. In the emergency room that night, her first deployment was Afghanistan. Forward surgical team performing surgery on wounded soldiers before they could even be moved to an operating table. Advanced medical procedures in combat conditions. That experience had changed Elena. You'll see how in 3 minutes. Her second deployment was Iraq, this time attached to Special Forces medical support. On the most dangerous missions, bullet wounds, explosive injuries, complex trauma cases. And the techniques she learned on those missions weren't things ever used in civilian hospitals. Elena taught herself to work in silence. No extra equipment, limited resources, maximum efficiency. Her hands had become instruments. And those hands would attract a lot of attention at Metro General that night. Her third deployment was near the Syria border. Black operations, medical support, combat surgery under fire. Elena was now competent at field surgeon level. But why had she left the military? To become a paramedic, that story was more complex. PTSD, readjustment issues, civilian life challenges. Elena's transition hadn't been easy. High-stress medical work felt comfortable. But civilian hierarchy was different, and that frustration was about to explode that night. That Tuesday night had started normally. Elena, Eric, and Mike were taking routine calls: car accident, elderly, for chest pains, standard night shift. But the call that came at 11:47 p.m. wasn't normal. At Al multi-vehicle collision, Highway 95, multiple casualties, possible entrapment. High priority call. Elena immediately became alert, because that type of call required Elena's real skills. When they arrived at the scene, there was chaos. 3 cars involved, 1 overturned, 2 passengers trapped, fire department working on extraction, and what Elena saw immediately put her into action. First, patient conscious but bleeding from head wound. Eric was doing basic assessment. Stable vitals, he said, but Elena saw something different. And that observation would change everything. Eric, stop. Elena's voice was different, authoritative, commanding. What is it, Elena? That's not a simple head wound. Look at the pupil response, the blood pattern, the neurological indicators. Eric looked but couldn't see it. What was Elena seeing? This is intracranial bleeding. We need advanced airway management, cranial pressure monitoring, immediate surgical intervention. Eric was confused. Elena, we're paramedics, not neurosurgeons. Elena's answer would shock Eric. I know what I'm doing. Elena pulled out advanced intubation equipment. Her hands moved with surgical precision. This wasn't basic paramedic procedure, and that technique, where had she learned it? The second patient was more critical: chest trauma, possible internal bleeding, signs of shock. Mike had started basic treatment. But when Elena approached, everything changed. Elena assessed the patient. Her hands moved like a scanner. Her touch was diagnostic, professional, expert level. This is tension pneumothorax with possible hemothorax. We need immediate chest decompression. Mike froze. Elena, that's emergency surgery. We can. And we will. Elena prepared equipment. These were things that weren't normally in an ambulance. So where had Elena gotten this equipment? The needle decompression procedure began. Elena's hands were steady, precise, expert, like she'd done it thousands of times, and maybe she had the patient's breathing immediately. Improved color returned, vital stabilized. Mike was amazed. Elena, where did you learn this procedure? Elena's answer would explain everything. Different places. Elena replied, continuing treatment. But Eric was persistent. Elena, this is advanced trauma surgery. Paramedics don't know this. Elena paused, looked at her hands covered in blood, steady as a rock, and at that moment she made a decision. You're right, paramedics don't know this. Eric and Mike were waiting, and Elena's next words would change everything. The third patient was the most critical: multiple trauma, possible internal injuries, going into shock. This case exceeded normal paramedic capabilities. But for Elena, it was routine, advanced, fourth access, blood pressure management, complex medication protocols. Elena was working like a machine, precise, efficient, expert. And during transfer to the hospital, the truth would come out. Rival at Metro General Emergency. Dr. Harrison, the attending physician, began reviewing the cases. Who provided initial treatment? Our paramedic team. Eric replied. Dr. Harrison looked at the medical charts and froze. This is extraordinary: intracranial pressure management, advanced chest decompression, Complex trauma stabilization. This is surgical level care. Elena was quietly cleaning equipment. But Dr. Harrison's next question would reveal everything. Which one of you provided this level of care? Eric and Mike looked at Elena, and Elena finally decided to tell the truth. I did, ma'am. This is residency level trauma surgery. Where did you train? Elena's answer would reveal a 15-year secret. Elena took a deep breath. Army Special Operations Medical Training Combat Surgery Specialist. 3 deployments. Silence. And at that moment everything made sense. You're saying our paramedic is a former military surgeon? Not just military surgeons, special operations field surgery under combat conditions. Eric and Mike were coming to the realization. But the real shock hadn't come yet. Dr. Harrison's next question would put everything into perspective. What rank? Major combat medical specialist. And that rank intimidated, even drive Harrison. Major, you outrank most of our attending physicians in combat medical experience. Elena was modest. Different context. Doctor, I'm a paramedic now. But Dr. Harrison's next offer would change Elena's life. Major Vasquez, would you consider joining our trauma surgery department? Elena was surprised. I'm not board certified as a civilian surgeon. We can arrange that. Your experience, your skills, we need them. What would Elena's decision be? Eric and Mike were amazed. Their paramedic partner was a major, a surgeon, a hero. Elena, why didn't you tell us? Elena's answer would explain military culture. Military teaches you don't talk about what you did, show what you can do. And that philosophy had shaped Elena's entire civilian career. In the following weeks, Elena began a dual-role paramedic shifts and trauma surgery training. She had become the hospital's most valuable asset. But the real story would develop around Elena's impact. Elena's reputation spread. The paramedic who's actually a surgeon's stories were told throughout the medical community. And those stories began inspiring other military veterans. Young paramedics wanted to learn from Elena. How did you stay so calm? Experience, training, understanding that every case matters, and that training philosophy would shape the next generation. Elena started a mentorship program, military to civilian medical transition support, so other veterans could find similar paths. Because Elena had realized she wasn't alone, a specialized trauma unit was established at Metro General. Elena became the lead surgeon. Military medical experience was being transferred to civilian health care, and this transformation was just the beginning. A year later, Elena became Dr. Elena Vasquez, board-certified trauma surgeon, but she never left her paramedic identity behind, because that experience shaped every decision she made. Street medicine teaches you differently. Elena would say every second counts. Every decision matters. Every patient deserves your best. Eric and Mike began working on Elena's surgery team. A paramedic to surgeon pipeline had been created, and that pipeline would revolutionize the medical field. Elena's story gained national attention. A military to civilian healthcare transition success story. Other veterans were inspired. But Elena's greatest achievement was yet to come. Elena now trains combat medics transitioning to civilian healthcare. The circle was complete. Your military service doesn't end with discharge. Elena tells them it evolves your skills, your dedication, your service mindset. These transfer those hands that performed surgery in combat zones. Now train the next generation, teaching precision, instilling confidence, sharing expertise. Eric and Mike are now Elena's closest colleagues. We learned from our Legend, they say proudly, because that's what hidden legends do. They don't hide their past. They use it to build better futures. In Elena's office hangs a single photo. Her military medical team in a combat zone, a reminder of where her skills came from, inspiration for where they're going. So I ask you, have you ever received medical care from someone like Elena? Healthcare providers whose military background you didn't know, where you only saw exceptional competence. Share your experiences in the comments, because here at Hidden Legends, we know that the greatest healers often serve in the most humble roles. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe, and help these important stories continue. We'll see you in the next legend, and until then, remember, your health care provider might have saved more lives than you'll ever know. Service never stops, it just changes uniforms.